Hello, fellow booby sattvas. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about the concept of precepts, the notion of right and wrong, and how you cannot game the game of life in Buddhism. But first, I need to do a caveat. As of January 1st this year, Homeboy is off coffee and on green tea. La 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 la. Sencha green tea. Saint Sencha. Yesterday, I must confess, I took a shot of coffee, and I am still feeling it today. And so you may feel a little bit of a kinetic, vibrant, thrumming energy coming off of me today. I may be speaking a little bit fast. Strangers in the night, exchanging fluids.
Some romantic life, etc. So you see what I'm saying? I'm talking a little bit fast. The thing in the back and the forward, we take it all around, we bring it down to, so I'm going to try and be a little bit more
relaxed and use the coffee to energize me to communicate truths to you here today about a very important topic. I got an email from a patron. Thank you, by the way, to my patrons over on patreon.com/showzon Jack Kovner. You guys make these videos possible. I hold you in my heart. I sit with you when I do my zazen at night. I light incense with and for you in the mornings when I sit. The patron says to me, she says, "Hey, I'm doing a class on the precepts. Would you like to zoom in and talk to us about the precepts?" I says to her, "Hey, sure." And this got me thinking about the Buddhist Zen precepts, which you may or may not know are vows or intentions that are said to orient you ethically as a practitioner. So, for example, in my community, when we received Tokudo Shiki or we got ordained, we gave the precepts. We would do great bows before our parents because we were saying goodbye to our parents. Like, you're not responsible for us anymore. This guy is. This old Japanese man sitting here asleep in the ceremony. He's now responsible for us. That's part of what that was important, I think, when young boys were going to leave their family and become monks. The parents needed to see what their children were getting into, and it was a way to honor the parents, right? And as part of this big ritual of joining a monastic community and becoming a student of the teacher, you presented your vows before the community, before your parents, and before the teacher, or you said the precepts. Now, when I was a monk, every ceremony that we did was total chaos, and my teacher did it this way specifically so that we would not get too attached to doing everything right and being good little boys and girls and figuring it all out so that we could go to Buddhist heaven when we die. He was what I call a jungle teacher. Like, he airdropped you into the jungle, spiritually speaking. So, morning of the ceremony, I'm leafing through the Hoshiki Bambai. So the Hoshiki Bambai is like something out of like Harry Potter or Lord of the Rings, right? Like, it was this massive homemade manuscript at the monastery. It was a huge, I mean, literally it was like this big, and it was stuffed with handwritten notes from different head monks and printed out sheets from anal retentive shikas and very uptight monks and nuns who over the years were like, we're going to get these ceremonies down. Roshi said, do it this way. And you can see in the Hoshiki Bambai, like from 1982, you know, the name of a shika, and then they've got these very detailed notes for a Tokudo Shiki monk's ordination ceremony, right? And then you can see a few years later, a new frazzled, harried shika scribbling like Colonel Kurtz in the jungle, like, I'm the one who has the truth now. And they're writing these notes on how to do the monk's ordination ceremony. They're totally different from the monk's notes from 2 years before, which are completely different from a nun's notes 3 years hence, right? So, I'm sitting there rifling through this Hoshiki Bambai, trying to find the precepts that I'm supposed to offer to the publicly to this group of people, including my parents and a bunch of other friends and folks and family and peers and my teacher, right? And my teacher isn't giving us any help at all. It's our job to figure this out. And so I've got like 5 different versions of the precepts. And the basic precepts, if you're to simplify them, are 5 in my community. And they are: don't kill, don't steal, don't use bad, poorly chosen language, don't commit sexual misconduct, and don't take intoxicants. Lay off the sauce, pal. Now, as I was swimming through this ocean of different precepts that I found in the Hoshiki Bambai, I came upon a version of the precepts that was like a clarion bell. And I thought in that moment that perhaps this is the reason why my teacher kept everything in play with, for example, an ordination ceremony. For a moment like this, when I could look through all these different versions of the vows, and the one that spoke to me, I could grab it. Now, I don't remember exactly what the vows were, and I was just sitting here trying to remember them, so I'll do my version of them now. Do not steal, but do not be attached to possessions or no possessions, and in general, don't be attached to distinctions between this and that, me and you, mine and yours. That's don't steal. When it comes to sexual misconduct, don't commit sexual misconduct, but don't be attached to sexual purity. Purity is also a kind of indulgence, if you will. You know, don't commit wrong speech, but don't be attached to any kind of speech, right speech or wrong speech. Don't police speech, yours or others. Do not kill, but do not be attached to peace. And finally, don't be attached to intoxicants, be they pot, be they ideologies, be they TikTok, be they cigarettes, be they coffee. Don't be attached to intoxicants, but don't be attached to no intoxicants. So some version of these precepts that I just gave you, a simplified version, was the precepts that I ultimately offered publicly to my community and my family when I received my vows that day. I'm really grateful that I was able to find this version of the precepts and say this version of the precepts, because I think it's really, it's as close to what I felt like I learned at the monastery and what I feel in my heart. It's as close to it as possible in precept terms. You can't game your life. Like, I was raised Catholic, a very conservative version of the Roman Catholic faith. And what I was taught very clearly was that you can game your life. These are the 10 commandments. You will follow them this way in a strict conservative Catholic format. You will thus keep pollutants out of your soul, and you will follow the clear path of good on a straight line through your life, and you will die and go to heaven. That is not the principle communicated by the version of the precepts that I took. The version of the precepts that I took as a monk was life is dangerous and you're gonna have to live it. And that means you're going to make terrible mistakes. So there's no getting around that. There's no believing in just the right thing. There's no learning the perfect mantra or practice that will help you finally transcend your human self. You're going to have to plow through this life walking the path. And the path is the path of right and wrong. You're going to have to walk that path. And you're going to have to make some pretty serious errors. This is life. Life is dangerous. And the precepts I took communicated to me the importance of being awake enough to commit fully to this path, to commit to it, to say yes. Because ultimately, this isn't a path of doing right and avoiding wrong. It's the path of ego death. And that's a very different thing. So that's a big term that I just sat with for like 40 minutes. Ego death. Like, what does that mean? And I'm not going to be able to define it really to anybody's satisfaction here today, except that it has something to do with moving through life and continually growing. I think it does have to do with changing and not getting stuck on a particular way of life or a particular way of being, which would then rule out other ways of life and other ways of being, and putting a shell around yourself and protecting yourself and not letting things in. I think it has to do with always being a little bit of a failure, always realizing and manifesting the fact that you're getting stuff wrong. And so you're open to new truths and new ways of life, new people, and new things. So I'm going to just tell a quick personal story here, and I will try to not overshare. When I was a kid, I was raised Catholic. As I said, I had strong sexual morality that was put upon me. I actually think it was a good idea. I was taught what's right and what's wrong. I think that kept me from making some mistakes, but it did perhaps cultivate a little goody-goody. Like, I remember there was this kid in our neighborhood named, let's call him Tommy Brazil. Tommy Brazil would be heavily medicated in this day and age. This kid was crazy. This kid had a blowfish, right? It was like a, I don't know, you know, one of those things, like it's like a lacquered blowfish and you put it on your wall. It was a real blowfish. It was like stuffed. It was taxidermied. And he picked it up and he was holding it and he threw it right in my face. It like stuck in my head. There was blood pouring out of my nose. He was totally crazy. I loved him. And he found a box of Playboys in his dad's attic. And we were really, I don't remember exactly how old I was. I honestly think it was probably, I was like between 6 and 8 years old. So he found these box of Playboys, right? And we're like looking at these things. And he's like, my mom's gonna divorce my dad when she finds out about this. So he takes the box, he throws it off the, through the attic. They were in like the attic in the garage. He drops it down and all these Playboys scatter everywhere. He runs and grabs his mom. He's like, you have to divorce dad. Look at all these naked ladies, right? So in any event, that situation was taken care of by the mom, who would sit around. She would smoke cigarettes. She would wear a bikini. And she would just sit there and drink Pepsi and smoke cigarettes all day. I don't think that the father's infidelity or obsession with Playboy was the problem in that marriage. In any event, she took care of everything. They got rid of the Playboys, but my friend, I forgot what, Mr. Brazil, Tommy Brazil, whatever I was calling him, had one centerfold that he kept, right? And it was like a fold out, of a naked woman. And he put it in the woods, right? And he told me where it was. Now, a little commando virgin boy that I snuck into the woods and stole the Playboy centerfold, not to discover my own sexuality through it, but to throw it out because it was immoral. So I swallowed hook, line, and sinker the 10 commandments that I was fed as a kid. Thou shalt not commit adultery. And that worked for a while. I think I I had certain energies that were kept in check. And that was probably a good thing. I don't know, but I think it was perhaps a good thing. I have no complaints. Then I hit high school. And I'm still pretty happy with how I behaved with my girlfriend in high school. Then I hit college and I fell in love, right? And I was with my girlfriend, or she wasn't my girlfriend yet. I would be outside her window at her dorm, and I would knock on the window, and we would hang out all night. And 1 week became 2 weeks. 2 weeks became 3, 4, 5 weeks. We went a long time without even kissing, right? And then we kissed, and then I didn't know what was allowed to come next. I was still kind of Catholic at that point. Catholicism was the apparatus through which I expressed my commitment to the spiritual path. And I was still kind of, we could say, fixated on notions of right and wrong and good and bad. So I cornered this hip, young, popular, sexy male theologian teacher in our cafeteria one day, and I said, Dr. So-and-so, I'm trying to figure out how to live my life. What does the Catholic Church say about, sexual morality? You guys are really big on rules and laws and commandments and dictates and that which is spoken from the chair of St. Peter. You tell folks how to live your life, but I don't actually know what is truly right and what is truly wrong. And you guys say that we Catholics say that we are the one true religion, right? Just like a lot of other religions out there put forth that claim that they're the one true religion, right? So I said, what are the rules around sexual behavior? And he couldn't really give me any. He was like, I don't know, man. Rub up against them. Maybe don't come, And I was like, you mean I can grab some titties? And he's like, I think so. And I was like, but can I touch the putata over the pants? And I think he was like, well, maybe. He was kind of giving me a half smile and going along with what I was saying, not giving me a specific answer. And concurrently with this conversation, I was reading Friedrich Nietzsche on the advantage and disadvantage of history for life. And the combination of this great theology professor and Nietzsche led me to believe that I was no longer Catholic, that this way of life was not going to work for me, that I was going to have to figure out my path on my own, and it was going to require making some mistakes. And key, central to this insight was the fact that I could feel doors closing inside me. And this is, I'm not super proud of this, it's a little bit embarrassing, but I could feel myself maybe being okay with being a bit of a prude, there was a part of the Catholic chastity that appealed to me. It was just clean and easy. It was a whole lot easier than dealing with the fires of my early 20-something, late teen passions. It was just easier to say no. And yet I could tell that in saying no, I would be shutting off a part of myself. And that energy would stunt me. And I wouldn't learn how to love properly. And I could see that it was already happening because I had been so scared and nervous to touch and kiss my new girlfriend whom I was in love with. And it was like Danger Will Robinson, right? Your path is not just to say no. You're going to have to say yes. You're going to have to grow. And you're going to make terrible mistakes. And it's going to be a total and complete, dirty, miserable mess. You're going to be sobbing. I was sobbing 5 years later when I got out of this relationship with this girlfriend. I was sobbing. It was messy and difficult. And love and life in many ways has been messy and difficult ever since. But I think that messy, difficult path is the true path. It's the path to ego death, which means sometimes very much saying no when it's very, very difficult, and then sometimes also saying yes when it's very, very difficult, okay? These are the Zen Buddhist precepts to me. I hope that made a little bit of sense to you. I realize this is a very difficult topic, and ethics, morality, very tricky, difficult topics. I hope in this short video I was able to just talk a little bit about what the precepts that I took meant to me. Listen, if you get something out of this channel, you can, if you wish, though you do not have to. I offer these little videos for free. You can go here to patreon.com/showsonjackhaubner. I've also got a PayPal link in the video description below, which you can make a donation through. We call this Donna. I'm passing the hat right now for donations. Thank you for your help, for your support. It makes possible... I don't know, it's become actually a key piece of my income, and I hadn't expected that, but it's really important. It's without Patreon and PayPal, I couldn't pay my bills right now. So in any event, not to like passive-aggressively bully you, I'm just offering thanks and saying if you want to support this channel that way, you can. You can also hit subscribe and hit like. Thanks, folks. I'll see you again next week. Ciao.